Hello and welcome. I'm Adrian Gregan, and I'm back for Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Today we're getting into episode 10 of season 1, and last time we continued on this little mini arc, our first major mini arc, I suppose. Our first arc, our first proper story arc, I suppose, of dealing with the demons and with the Sage of Destruction Aura, who is our first sage because Qual was a sage, but he was not a sage with a capital S, apparently. He was just like his title. But he wasn't actually one of the sages of destruction, so the court is still out over whether sages are unique and they can they've learned more than one skill, or if they are just the epitome of demons who hone one craft over the course of their lives. I suppose we'll see soon enough, because this time we dealt with the executioners of Aura. We dealt with Linie, not Linny, as I've been told, and we also finished off her boss, Lugner. Fern is, I'm a little bit scared of her now, not gonna lie. She's incredibly powerful, and this is just after only a few years. I'm sure when she's like a full-grown adult, she's going to be even stronger. Stark, on the other hand, is also very strong and has great potential, but he doesn't seem to be quite as much of a prodigy. Some people in the comments said that his, what seemed to me to be overwhelming strength, is still very strong, but it's not excessive or far out of the ordinary. It's within the means of training. So he still is very much someone I'm looking forward to seeing grow, and he has a lot of potential, but he's not Fern levels of prodigy, which I suppose makes sense because you can only have so many prodigies in one team, right? And we've already got 2. So I guess Stark, and it's kind of interesting actually now that I say it aloud, because it really feels like we're setting Stark up to be surrounded by these incredible figures, which might only fuel his inferiority complex a little bit and fuel his lack of confidence. Alternatively, seeing these people skilled and standing up to them, standing up with them, could be a good mechanism to drive his own growth. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out and where that goes from here. But I don't think we're going to get much of it this episode, because we got plenty of it last episode in his battle against Linie, where he realized that her imitation attacks don't have nearly as much weight as his master, as Aizen. And he did a devastating blow and pretty much just sliced her in half. Now, there's a couple things I wanted to look at from last episode. Actually, a couple things that I didn't really talk too much about that I wanted to share a little bit more appreciation with. Now, before we go into the new episode, though, I did want to talk a little bit more about last episode and just how much I appreciate it, because I feel like I didn't quite talk enough about the overall flow of the episode and how Frieren approaches action scenes and how well it approaches them. Namely, the fact that the last episode, the way that the two main battles versus Lugner and Linie, respectively, kind of intermingled with each other, and they didn't really exchange blows, or they didn't cross over very much, but there were great transitions between the two fights, especially once they were both going, and Lugner was telling Linie to hurry up and deal with Stark so she could join him. And it was a great transition from those two fighting, the two mages fighting, to the two warriors. And there was just really not just smooth animation, but just smooth directing. And I'm not sure if that's thanks to the mangaka or if it's more thanks to the animation studio. I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but it flowed really, really nicely, and it had this great energy to it. It never felt like it was lacking in energy, and every time things sped up or slowed down, it felt very natural and felt very organic. And I really appreciate that. I don't think I talked about that enough here in the last episode, so I felt like I had to bring it up here because I've just been thinking about it, and it's just a really, really good fight scene. Exceptional, especially for the show's first proper fight. You could say the dragon was one, but this feels like the first drawn out character versus character fight, and it really, really is showing what it's capable of. And I'm sure we're only just getting started, because now we've got Aura to face off against, and we've got Frieren doing it. It seems like she's just gonna be her on her, one-on-one, I should say. So yeah, I'm not worried at all for Frieren. I doubt she'll even really struggle much, but I'm looking forward to seeing the extent of Aura's power before Frieren gets to remind us just who's in charge here. But that's enough about last episode. Let's hop into the episode at hand. But really quickly before we get started, if you do enjoy it, please do like it. It really helps me out. And if you want to help yourself out, subscribe. It lets you get notified whenever new ones come out, which is 3 times a week. But I'm gonna leave all that YouTuber housekeeping stuff on the side for now, and we're just gonna hop into Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Season 1, Episode 10. Let's see what we've got. Is this going to be the end of Aura? Is she gonna get away? Or is this gonna end up being a 4-parter? There's no way, right? There's no way we're gonna keep going with this. Flame.
なんだ?
先生は本当に卑怯だと思ってるの。
So this is probably pretty early on into her tutelage. Basalt's final words.
あいつらは言葉で人間をたぶらかすんだよ。
Oh, Basalt the demon. Interesting. Mazoku.
奴らは卑怯だ。ならば私たちはそれ以上の卑怯者になればいい。それで魔族を根絶やしにできるのなら、私は喜んでそのお命を。
Become monster to slay the monster. Interesting. By the way, I plan to release a separate video about this. I received a comment on episode 7, I believe. Somebody who was a little bit offended that I was calling Flame Flamingo. And I wanted to initially laugh off, but the more I sat with it, and they haven't responded, so I assumed they're either a troll or they just ignored me, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there was actually something I wanted to say about that, and that I wanted to respect it, whether it was just a troll or an actual comment. So I will be calling her Flame from now on, just for out of respect, because she does seem like a very respectable person. I won't apologize for nicknames like Volcano Head for people like that, but like Flame, who doesn't really deserve any sort of like that, and actually deserves a lot of respect. Not that Jogo doesn't, but I suppose it's fair to give her the respect of calling her by name, so I'll do that. And if you're watching this, you commented that, then I am sorry. It was made in good fun, but perhaps a bit tastelessly, so. She does look like a really genuinely good person. And I wonder if we'll get more of her here, or if that was just kind of to set the stage, since we are dealing with the demon here. Suyoi Mahotsukai. Also something I didn't mention, the fact that Blugner got annihilated because he was looking over at Linnea is interesting. It wasn't quite a moment of selflessness, but it was literally a moment where he was thinking about somebody else and they got taken advantage of, which is interesting. It's usually what you see from the protagonist side. Really? And yet she hasn't used the scales yet. I guess she could just want, or I could just want to keep fighting with her, but I don't know about that. Fighting unfair, yeah. That's what the flashback was for. Soso no Frieren. But it's about more than strength. This what? What? He's actually offended? What are they talking about? He's actually offended. That's a new emotion we've seen from demons. Which makes sense, I guess. It's reductive to assume they don't have emotions just because they imitate us, right? It's like assuming predators in our world, like lions and such, don't feel things just because that was a lot bigger than I thought he was. Basalt the throne and got destroyed in the
こい
process.
つを殺したのはお前かそこの死にかけ
And this is when they first met. Interesting.
すごい魔力だお前強いだろ魔族と正面から戦ったのかくだらねえとんだバカだなどうして正面から戦いたがるかね逃げる隠れる不意打ちするいくらでも選択肢はあるだろうな強い魔法使いの気持ちはわからね
わかる
There's the title.
えは
あなたには私の気持ちがわかるはずだ
Because you're strong too.
あなたの方が
Hmm.
はるかに強い魔法使いだから
But she seems to be concealing it better. What does this have to do with them not using as much mana?
どうしてそう思った
Is it...
なんとなく
Are they hiding their mana source?
お前
They're like trying to conceal it so the enemy thinks they have less than they actually have? Wait!
はどうなったの
Wait, tell me Frieren's trying to bait Aura into using the scale. So she used it because she thinks she's weaker.
私が一番
Oh
強い
my god, if that's the case, that will be incredible. I might just be crazy. I don't know if that's actually a thing we can do. It's too early in the show, but that would be so cool.
お前には才能がある
おろさない
私の弟子にするそれに分かっているはずだ私が通りかからなければお前は死んでいたお前は集落も守れなかった上に死ぬところだったんだ
But she
文
hides
字
it
通り
well.
無駄死にだ
Hmm.
追っ手だなお前が殺した将軍より強いぞ
Ooh. A sage. That's not a face I've seen before.
直前まで魔力を完全に消して闇討ちする気満々だったくせに
Whoa.
こっちが魔法使いと分かるや否や堂々と姿を現しやがった
Hmm.
こいつらは卑怯で狡猾だが同時にどいつもこいつもくだらねえ魔法への誇りを持っていやがる
Pride was hurt. That was a Lugner in the present day.
そのエルフの女を置いていけ
そうしたら見逃してくれんのか
エルフを皆殺しにしろそれが魔王
Kill
様
all
の
the
命令だ
elves.
お前の命
That's why we don't see many of them?
そうかい
Why would he want such a thing, though?
フリーレン
That's
確
really
かに私は強
interesting.
い魔法使いの気持ちが痛いほどよくわかる
But
こいつらの気持ちも手に取るようにわかるさ
really,
今まで研鑽してきた自らの魔法に対する自信と信頼要するにクソみたいなおごりと油断だ
if looks could kill, just the shockwave. Wow, what a great perspective to show that
お
from.
前と違ってこいつらは私を雑魚と判断したらしいこいつらは格上の卓越した魔法使い
What?
些細な油断で命を落とした
体外に放出する魔力を制限して
By controlling how much you release. So they underestimate you, take advantage of their
相
pride.
手が認識
Yeah,
し
now
た
it's
魔力の誤
massive.
差で欺いて殺す
Yeah.
誇り高き魔法を愚弄した
Wow. And so they'd never think of doing it because that crosses their line. It crosses the line of their morality, their ethics. What? But it's only fair. In love and war, right?
傷も
She's
だいぶ
reading
良くな
out.
ってきたな
Very studious, as we know her to be.
そろそろ修行を始めるか
フランメ
Oh, so we're getting like an extended, and now we're back to the present day.
私は魔族に全てを奪われた
私
Kill all the elves.
魔族を根絶やしにしたいほど憎い
私もだ。
Hmm.
けれども私は魔法が好きで。
私も好きだ。
Can't help but relate to them a
だ
little
から
bit through
魔
magic.
法を愚弄するような卑怯者は私たちだけでいい。
Cowards who make a mockery
修
of
行っ
it.
て何をすればいいの？
Interesting.
海
Not
外に
sure
放
why
出す
exactly
る
she
魔
says
力を10
that.
分の1以下に抑えてみろ。さすがだな。よく制御できている。
Much more than
この程
before,
度エル
yeah.
フなら誰でもできるよ。
あとは並行して基本訓練だ。基礎的な魔力を上げていく。
But it's probably a lot harder when
そ
you're
れだけでいい
actually
の？
簡単だ。
fighting. Because you gotta keep your attention on it, I
ところで
imagine.
この魔力の制限はどのくらい続ければいいの？
Forever.
あまり長いと疲れるんだけ
For the rest of your life. All day, every day. You never when you'll be attacked.
お前は一生をかけて魔族を欺くんだ。
Because they'll try to deceive you. You never know when they're there. But will Aura fall for it?
ど。これで首切り役人は全滅だ。失敗したね、アウラ。
そうね、残念だわ。でもここであなたを仕留められれば戦果としては十分。あなたはこの戦いでたくさんの不死の軍勢を私の支配下から
You must have used what little mana you have. There's no way she's actually
こ
gonna
の
fall
私
for
の命
it.
でそんなに多くの魔力を消費して大丈夫なのかしら。
服従の天秤。天秤に互いの魂を
The stronger soul gains control of the weaker one. Which is really interesting. I'm going to talk about it more in the discussion, but there was a great comment about how this reflects the ethos of demons. I can't wait to talk about that in the discussion. That makes sense. More mana with more training, and she's trained a lot.
500年以上生きた大魔族であること。
Hmm.
その生涯のほとんどを鍛錬に費やしたこ
But she hasn't trained to hide
と。
it.
500年か。魔族の中でも
Really?
かなりの長寿だ。今
It's
ま
less
で
than half of
敵な
your
しだった
life,
の
though.
大概
So
の
that's
魔
probably
力
why
の
she's
量
playing
だ
it
け
safe
で
and
こ
hasn't
れだ
used
け
it
の
yet.
情報が手に入る。
She wants to make
そ
sure
れで
you've
も魔
used
族は魔力を
enough.
包み隠さないし、包み隠せない。
Nor can they.
哀れだ。
Hmm. Is she actually gonna
ア
use
デ
it?
リューゼ。
How's it use?
先
Ooh,
生
the cutout.
魔族ってずる賢いんだよね。なんで先生みたいに
Almost
常に
made me
魔力を
jump.
制限したりしないんだろ
Okay, so
で
this
きねえのさ。
when he learns they
魔
can't.
族は個人主義の世界といっても
Vigilance.
人類と戦うための最低限の組織的なつながりを持っている。
Mm-hmm.
組織に
Just
必
like
要なものって
capitalists.
何だと思う？
秩序かな。
そうだ。
I get it. It's a metaphor for capitalism.
偉い奴が必要って
Everything is a metaphor for
人の場合
capitalism.
は例えばこの国の連中は地位や財産で偉いやつが決まる。
Status
あ
and
の
wealth.
宮
Yeah,
殿か
a
ら
lot
出
more
て
like
きた
people
身なり
than
のいいのが偉いや
we
つ。
like to admit.
人の偉さは分かりづらい。だからああやって着飾って見た目で分かるようにするんだ。
Because
魔族は違うの。
we all look the same
や
when
つ
we're
は自
naked.
分たちが魔物だった頃と何も変わっていない。強いやつが偉いんだ。
That's not quite true,
人よ
but
りずっと分かりやすい。強さってのは見れば分かる。
魔力だね。
奴らにとっての魔力は
mm,
人にとっての地位や財産だ。
yeah. Because for
尊厳
humans,
そ
the
のも
mana
のと言っ
wouldn't
てもいい。
change enough to be
隠
too
密の手段
noticeable.
として一時的に魔力を制限することはあっても常日頃から魔力を制限するバ
That
カなんて存在しないどこぞの貴族が
I didn't
お
like
忍
that
びで
cut.
城下町に降りてくるのと地位も財産も捨てて身を落とすのとじゃ全く違う話だろ。そして魔力の低い連中に尊厳が与えられ
Oh,
るほど
yeah.
魔族の
They
世界
can't
は
hide it
甘くない
because then they won't be
だか
respected.
ら力の強い魔族ほど必死に魔
Yeah.
力を誇示す
So
る
it's not that they physically can't, it's that they socially can't.
常に魔力を制限するメリットなんて皆無だし
And it also fits with their ethos.
哀れだよな。
That's so
人が
interesting.
地位や財産に縛られるように魔族は魔力に縛られている。
That's
奴ら
so
は魔法を
interesting.
誇りに思い誰よりも魔法が好きなのに己の魔力すら自由にでき
And
る。
what a great way to explore this concept than through someone who literally measures mana up through a scale. It's so perfect.
おかげで魔族を欺ける。
Mm-hmm.
魔力の
This show is
制限
so
を始め
smart.
てから3年後
Wow.
私の見込みは間違っていなかったな。だいぶ様になってきたな。
And maintaining it too.
フリーレ
Oh,
ン
what?
まだ魔法は好きか？
How long has it been?
突然どうしたの先生。
Did she actually die of old age?
お前はずっと昔
I guess it's time of peace, so it makes sense.
たった50年前でしょ。
50 years ago. Jeez. I guess I don't really know if it's time of peace, but it seems fairly peaceful. But I guess the Demon Lord is around. Flamme just doesn't seem too interested in fighting him.
いいや、お前に私の魔法を託してよかったと思っている。
Mm-hmm.
お前の長い寿命
I get to live on through you.
いつか魔王を倒せるほどの高め
And he can slay the Demon King and affect so many lives. Wonderful.
フリーレン、一つ頼みがある。
何？
私の墓の周りは花畑にしてくれ。
似合わないね。
そうだな。フリーレン、私の一番好きな魔法は
Oh, really?
花畑を出す魔法だ。小さい頃両
It was
親
like, what was that, episode 3?
魔法が好きになったきっかけだ。
So it wasn't just for Himmel. Hmm.
その魔法を教えてよ。
Mm-hmm.
いいかフリーレン、歴史に名を残そうなんて考えるなよ。
You must never seek living in history. Huh.
お前が歴史に名を残すのは魔王をぶっ
What an
殺す
interesting thing for her to say of all people. I wonder why. Perhaps so she can defeat the Demon King? Or is there a deeper reason? Oh, little snowman. Little carrot mouth. There's some crazy looking wolves. And then centuries pass. Huts become village, become a town becomes a city. Well, maybe not a city per se, but and then to the heroes.
長く生きた魔法使い
Oh, and this is when she joins the team.
それは君か
Oh.
長く生きたと言っても、だらだら生きていただけだよ。
Hmm.
優秀なわけじゃない。
どう思う相田。魔力は私の5分の1くらいですね。
What with my Mata? She's gotten that good at hiding it. Wow.
まあまあの魔法使いに用はないでしょ。
Mama no mahotsukai.
君は僕が出会ってきたどの魔法使いよりも強い
Ooh, you can see through
どう
her.
してそう思うの？
なんとなくだ
Intuition, huh?
アゼリューゼ
Those flashes. Well, about that one. Oh, wow, that looks great. It's beautiful. And then, like, a large scale appears, or do they both just...
嬉しそ
They
う
go
だ
down
な。
onto her
勝利を
scale,
確信
right?
しているの。
今にわかるわ。
今に
そうそう
わか
のフリーレン
る。
80年ほど前に初めて表舞台に姿を現し、勇者一行とともに魔王様を
And your mana seems about the same as it was back
年
then.
のエルフの魔法使い。でも、あなたがどれだけ長く生きた魔法使いかなんてどうでもいい。あなたの魔力が全てを物語っている。
Yeah, and she doesn't have any reason to
手
doubt.
に取るようにわかる。あなたは優秀な魔法使いだけれども、魔力自体はそれほど
Hook,
でも
line, and sinker.
鍛錬を積んだのはせいぜい合わせて
More than
100
100
しかも
years.
80年前と大して変わっていない。
Mm-hmm. She's that
魔
good
力
with
以外
it.
の技術を磨いていたの
The scale's gonna like
それと
break.
もダラダラと生きていたの
What?
か
It's gonna like snap.
どちらにせよ私には遠く及ばない
Ooh. It's actually laying down.
私の勝ち
Is it just because she is hiding it? Well, I guess that's how much she's releasing, right?
あとはこの私直々にあなた
So
の
all she
首
just
を
needs
落と
to
して
do is increase the amount she's releasing.
これならフリーレンの魔力を消耗させるまでもなかったわ
She's really dragging this out, isn't she? I guess Frieren could
武士
be
の軍勢もだいぶやられちゃったし後で補充しない
playing it safe too. Or she's just
となんだ天秤がフリ
There
ー
we
レンの
go.
方に傾いていく
she's just like slowly letting out more and more rope.
天秤に乗せたなアウラ正直このまま軍勢の物量で押されていたら危なかったけれどもお前が自分の魔力に自信を持ってい
Even I couldn't have
て
dealt with all of these.
やっとお前を倒せる
Oh, the music slowly building.
もう気がついているはずだ私は魔力を制限していたお前は見誤ったんだアウラ
We're gonna finally see her break
そんな
composure.
はずはないわそれならこの私が見逃すはず
She's
が
trying
な
to
い
hold on to it, but you can see her confidence is wavering.
制限特有の不安定さもわずかなブレもなかった
驚いた魔族はそこまで正
Interesting.
確に魔力を観測でき
Well,
る
that's because I've been hiding it constantly. I didn't. Nothing
先生の
changed.
感覚は正しかったみたいだ
Mm-hmm.
私は生きてきた
That's so
時間の
interesting.
ほとん
So
ど
if she'd
を
only done it when she went into
過
battle,
ごしたこの状態で
Aura would have
自然に
noticed. Yeah, you can see the slit.
バカじゃないの
Aura would have
なんで
noticed
そん
if
な
she'd
わけの
like
わか
put
ら
it
ない
on.
こと
That's so interesting.
バカみたいだ
Why would I do it right
で
here?
もお前
Case in point. That's all that matters. Oh, the concern on her
ふざけ
face.
るな
And her
私
voice
は
is
500年以上
wavering.
生きた大魔
Yeah.
族だ
And I've been alive over 1,000. What of it?
お前の前にいるのは
There we go.
1000年以上生きた魔法使いだ
Yep. Oh. It's just. It's an arena. It's a full arena of mana.
フリーレン
And now she's got her as a slave.
魔族が言葉で人を欺くよお前は魔力で魔族を欺くんだ
Wow.
自害しろ
Wow. And she's still conscious. Wow. Jeez. And that's Fiend. Cool guys never look at explosions, right? God, oh my god, what an episode. What an episode. So many interesting intricacies that were explored. What a great way to use the tool of demons having one specific thing, using it to explore a specific avenue of your magic system. That's brilliant. It's so thorough and so interconnected that yet it feels so natural. So brilliant. I'm just floored. And it's like perfectly predictable. Like I predicted it like the start of the episode. And it played out so well that's like it's still good. It doesn't matter if it's predictable, right? It's just good. As a truly good story should be.
あなたには褒めてくれる人は
And now we're done with Aura.
一級のなんでなんだ
俺たちはエルフってことだ。
北側諸国の冬だよ
Elves. What a phenomenal episode. What a great end to this first arc, to this first this first like significant arc. And what great framing too. I've mentioned it before in previous episodes, but it's still applicable, so I'll say it again. This is really great framing. It's the idea of starting a not only starting it off with the main topic of the episode, which is fighting unfairness with unfairness, right? All's fair in love and isn't all's fair in love and all's fair in love and war. I don't know why that was giving me a brain fart, but obviously that's the main purpose of this. But it also builds a little bit of intrigue. It shows us a time where so early on in their relationship, as we learn, like this may have only even been a year into their relationship, if not less, probably like weeks, if not days, to the point where Frieren's still calling her Flamme, not master. And as we learn, it's a 50-year-long relationship. So it's great. And unlike a lot of our other flashbacks with Flamme, we actually go back and revisit it, and we go out throughout it, because this is really an episode about Frieren, and it's about what she's decided to do to face off against demons, because it's such an overwhelmingly stacked deck against like most creatures, because they're the hunters, right? And it's a nice like back and forth kind of playing with your expectations, because he mentions that Frieren's got less mana, and immediately you like press X to doubt, right? We've set up the show to be a story where Frieren is not somebody who's going to learn a whole lot necessarily, where she's not going to go on this journey you'd expect from a lot of protagonists. I've likened it to One Punch Man. It's a little bit more like Overlord, I'd say, where it's a very personable main character. It's not that they won't grow or struggle at all, but they're not going to, their struggle isn't the point. The point is the world around them and the people around them. So immediately, and of course Fern continues to have utmost faith in her master, as she should. But so we immediately doubt it when he says that she has weaker mana. And especially since the main enemy here, Aura, is a person who weighs the power of mana. Immediately we think, okay, well, clearly Frieren can't be weaker than her, because the way the fight's been going, Frieren's been fighting a lot, and Aura hasn't been fighting at all. So if Frieren really had weaker mana than Aura, then she wouldn't stand a chance. She'd pretty much just lose. And she certainly wouldn't be as composed as she is. So she clearly has the upper hand. It's something I've brought up a lot in JJK, but you can tell who has the upper hand in a battle, right? At least from our stance, from perspective of watching the anime. It's a little harder to tell, obviously, in person, but when you're actually there, like when you're watching it here, and you have all of these cues to show you, and you have these people who are more expressive than real life, which is one of the reasons I love anime so much, you can immediately tell by their composure, by how they're reacting to things around them, and even by how they fight and how they talk. You can tell who has the upper hand. Aura has great composure. She has no reason to think she's losing, but she's fighting a lot more. She's being a lot more active. She's talking a lot. She's sending a lot of forces forward, where Frieren is almost indifferent to it all, it seems. So Aura doesn't immediately seem like she's losing, but you can tell that Frieren has the upper hand. And it's in those little subtleties that you can tell things are not quite right. They're not quite lining up with, as Lugner is saying. And this is a moment that also really sticks in my head. And it really fits the more I think about it, because we have seen that they're very prideful. They've been talked about as very prideful, and we've seen it ourselves. So I initially thought, well, yeah, he's offended. This is unusual. It's weird seeing him be like vulnerable, offended, emotional. And then I thought more about it, and as a disclaimer, this is not me going back on the scale of, oh, we should be empathetic and we should all try to get along. That's pretty clearly not going to happen, by their will, if nothing else. But it's just as foolhardy or short-sighted to assume they are inhuman just because they're not human. To assume that that you can't empathize with them just because you can't sympathize with them. So maybe I should retract that. Yes, I am staying on the side of empathy. I fully believe you can and should empathize with anything you can, including demons. But you shouldn't sympathize with them, and you shouldn't let your empathy take over, but you should feel empathy. There is nothing inherently wrong with putting yourself in their place and feeling their emotion. One great distinction I've seen between the two terms, empathy and sympathy, is sympathy is when you say, let me give you some of my emotion. Whereas empathy is, let me borrow some of your emotion. Because with sympathy, like, you're feeling bad for them, right? You're giving them your condolences, your pity. Whereas empathy, you are taking their feeling and you are feeling it yourself. That is not inherently bad. There's nothing inherently wrong with, say, a deer empathizing with a tiger. Empathy doesn't inherently change how you act. It doesn't inherently change your relationship. All it does is change your appreciation of the beings around you. They are predators, but they are still life. They're still alive. They are people, though it's kind of an extension to say that. It feels kind of wrong to say that. And I think it should feel wrong because we are the prey here. And they prey on us, so it feels wrong to call them people, but I want to acknowledge that they are people. They have their own sort of society. They have their own classes, their own caste system, if you would. They are a people. They're far removed from us, and you could very well argue that we are two peoples that cannot coexist. I wouldn't say that conclusively, at least not with the information I have. However, I do want to acknowledge that they are peoples. So I will stand firm that empathy is not wrong. Empathy is not bad. There is nothing wrong with empathizing with anything, anybody, as long as they demonstrate they have a consciousness. And to that extent, I would say even like squirrels, they have consciousness. Eagles, even bugs to a degree. I don't think, well, maybe not bugs, but I mean, they're conscious, but I don't think you need to empathize with a bug necessarily. But empathy inherently is not a bad thing. And here, I think the pushback I got when I was trying to see the better side of demons, which was admittedly a little bit my own ignorance, I think that feeling of I realize what demons really are, that they are not to be made peace with, can also lead to its own blindsiding. Like here, where I got on board with that, and I was surprised when I saw that that Lugner was, that he was insulted, that he has a pride, and pride is not inherently bad. We consider it a sin because excessive pride, but pride on its own is not bad. Feeling insulted is an emotion. It's a feeling you can have. And it's, ironically, something to feel proud about. There's nothing wrong with having a sense of pride, right? And if someone violates that pride, if someone does something that you think is an affront to magic, then I don't think it's a bad thing to call them a disgrace, to feel insulted by it. And it's an interesting, I don't want to say humanizing part of them, but it reminds us that they're peoples, that they have emotions, that they are conscious, they are sentient. They are more than just animals, even if they are predators. That's a lot of mana, nothing compared to what it is now, but I'll never understand strong mages. They just fight things head on, they don't have to be sneaky. But you're strong too, she can tell. Just a feeling, and that's reflected with Hyder, right? Intuition. These people are dead. And we learn that the Demon King is trying to kill all the elves, and I'm not quite sure why. Concealing the mage just before they struck. Kill all the elves, those were the Demon King's orders. We don't know why, and the Demon King should be dead, so we probably will never know why. Except like through flashbacks maybe, but that explains why we don't see elves around in the present day anymore. I'm aware of what it's like to be strong. I know how these creatures feel too. The absolute confidence they have in the magics they've studied. See, that's empathy, right? That's empathy. We think of empathy as something tied with sympathy, but it's not. It's just, I can understand their position. And you don't have to empathize with everything. You don't have to empathize with their pride, with their honor, with their arrogance. You don't have to empathize with all of it. You can just empathize with the fact that they're strong. Because you're strong too. You're incredibly, ridiculously strong. And that's empathy. There's nothing wrong with that. But then she says, she admits that her way of fighting is cowardly and unfair. That makes a mockery of magic. But she says the same about demons, right? At some point. Which is why you and I should become cowards and make a mockery of magic. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe I misread it. I thought she was talking about demons who do it. But she's saying you and I should be to fight against demons. Okay, that makes more sense. I think I just misread that line. Any elf can do this. It's easy. How long do I have to do it for? Forever. And then we learn why. Because even if she did it a day in advance, Aura is so perceptive that she can tell when somebody, or she can tell if somebody has intentionally hid their own mana. But since Frieren never hid it, it's been hidden for 1,000 years. It's just her baseline. It just seems like her baseline. Brilliant. And now, this is a good time as any to talk about the comment, and I'll leave a note for it here. But essentially what it's talking about is how the scales of obedience are very representative of demons and how they see strength. And they talk about it also with the humans, how humans have their own social status and they dress up. Demons have their mana. And this scale is very indicative of that very mana/power centric view of worth. For us, the scales generally are used to determine justice, right? Scales of justice. They're used to determine whether somebody has more sin or good in them, perhaps, if they're if they're in purgatory, let's say. So for us, they're very morally bound scales, but for demons, it's representative of the fact that their morality is almost inherently tied to strength, if not directly tied to strength. Might makes right. They are strong, so they are right. They have mana, so they are just. And these scales are a great way to represent that and to represent it in a way that that resonates with us, that we can connect with, because we know the scales of justice. We know purgatory and measuring souls, right? But this is done explicitly in a way that acknowledges the focus and the attention of demons on mana and power, and how that is their very society. It is their very life. And then she uses it, and it immediately cuts back to what I was talking here. They won't and they can't. They're individualists, but they form the barest connections needed to fight against humankind. Organizations need order. You need someone important to lead. And for humans, it's determined by status and wealth, which they display by dressing well and having servants, right? It's tale as old as time. As long as there have been societies, there have been men who dress themselves up and make themselves prominent so you can tell who's important. Because at the end of the day, we all look about the same. And right here, okay, here, I don't like this shot. I've got to bring it up here. And I saw it in the comment of last episode, or it might have been 2 episodes ago. I think it was last episode, where somebody mentioned that my comment about the first-person POV shot with Fern doesn't really bother them, and they didn't really notice it, but even after I mentioned it, it doesn't really bother them. And I mentioned it in my own response to the comment, but I'll just touch upon it briefly here. I'm glad it doesn't bother you. It doesn't really bother me too much either. These little criticisms, first of all, they're not really coming from a expertise point of view. This is more of something I really enjoy. I've got a little bit more expertise in like storytelling, but when it comes to like analyzing shots and analyzing like different framing and different POV shots, and here like animation, I'm not an expert in any sense of the word. It's just something I really enjoy, that I get a lot of value out of watching shows and paying attention to things like this. And the reason I don't like this one is the last one I mentioned, it was because the angle is too low. I think that one's a little bit more subtle. This one is, well, this one's also very subtle. It's not like glaring, and it's easy to like blink and you'll miss it because it's not a very long cut. But you'll notice that this is like the only shot that they're not actually moving. Look at the way they're walking. They're just walking. They're walking like normally, but the ground isn't moving, nor are they progressing in the shot. So they are literally not making any progress. They're basically on a treadmill, except treadmills move. So it defies logic. It defies sense, and it kind of stands out. It's not a major like detraction. Like I wouldn't rate this episode any lower because of it, but it's something that I think is worth mentioning, if for no other reason than precisely because the show is as good as it is. Frieren is exceptional in almost every conceivable way, but I think we have a bad tendency, a bad habit of either only hating on a show or only glazing it. I think if we really like a show and we think a show is great, we become almost afraid to criticize it. And similarly, if a show is universally regarded, or if we just regard it as bad, then we hesitate to compliment it. And I think that dichotomy should be broken down. I think we should not only be not afraid to criticize good shows and to praise bad shows, but we should welcome it, because it is a complexity and a maturity and nuance that you don't see enough in media and in media literacy. And going back to this though, you'll see in this shot, like it's a little hard to see because it's zoomed out, but if you look at the crack in front of Frieren, you can see she is actually approaching it. She's taking little steps towards it, but she actually gets very close to stepping on it. And I think here she actually steps over it. So you can see she's actually moving forward in the shot. But if you look back over at this one, and they're obviously walking downstairs, but if you look at this one, and I'll change it so it's not 4 times speed, because it looks really funny when it's 4 times speed. It's really funny when it's 4 times speed. So I'll let it play like that first. Hold on. Here they're obviously moving, but here with Frieren, you can tell like her heels, she's walking a little bit more normally. But Flame is kind of like stopping up and down. She looks like she's just kind of like stomping. She's just stomping. And that's pretty funny in its own right. But bring it just down to a normal speed. I think these things are worth mentioning, not because they're major detractions, and not everything I say needs to be like significant, like needs to be a significant plus or a significant minus for the show. It doesn't need to be like a major detraction or benefit to the show. It can simply be, also that was kind of weird and choppy. I thought it was my thing going bad, but it's actually, yeah, that was really choppy. It was really weird. That was actually kind of glaring. That one, I noticed it during the episode. I didn't want to comment on it, and I got distracted by the next shot, but that's weird. It's like 2 kind of back-to-back weird shots. And here you'll see, I'll play it normally. They're not progressing at all. At all. And it's just strange. And again, it doesn't like, that might take away a little bit because it's 2 back-to-back shots. It might detract from it a little bit, but I don't want you to be bothered by it. I don't bring these things up to try to like bring you down to earth or to take away your enjoyment of it or to shit on Frieren or anything like that. I think it is the most honest and most genuine form of appreciation for a work of art, when you can point out how incredible it is in so many ways, and yet also here's where it can improve, here's what can improve, here's what can improve, right? If you've ever created something exceptionally, if you've ever created something that somebody has told you is exceptional, for me, a lot of it's my essays. I've almost never, I don't think I've ever gotten below an A in an essay because I've always really loved and been quite skilled at writing. But if you've ever been in that position, then I imagine you'll relate to the fact that it is gratifying, and it shows that the person who read it really cares when they point out ways it can improve, even though it's exceptional. because it shows they really paid attention to it. They're not just praising it for the sake of praising it. They're actually, when somebody levels criticism as something that's exceptional, it makes their praise of that something more grounded and feel more real, because it shows that they can grasp the good and the bad, and they're not afraid to present them. That's not tooting my own horn saying I'm a good analysis because I say the good and the bad, but just in general, we shouldn't be afraid to call that out for being weirdly choppy for no reason or out of nowhere, and for this to be weirdly lazy and be just off-putting for no reason. The bit with Fern is a little bit less of an issue, but this one's just a little bit more notable, so I just had to bring that up. For demons, might makes right. You can tell just by looking at them, because mana is everything. So they can't suppress their mana because they wouldn't be recognized. They wouldn't have power. They wouldn't have status. And they won't, because it's an affront to magic. So it's not a double-edged blade. It's just two blades pointed at their throat. No pun intended, given the end of the episode. But it's very fitting. So it's emotionally and socially tied to, or preventing them from even considering it. Because even if they wouldn't do it themselves, if they didn't have that social aspect of I can't do this or there's no reason for it to do it, there's no benefit for it, if they didn't have that massive stigma around it, then they could easily imagine, oh, I won't do it because it's an affront to magic, but my enemies don't think like me, they might do it. But for one, the reason they can't do that is because they don't think of it. But I think a lot of it is also something that was mentioned in the comments a lot, that demons don't care to empathize with humans. Some likened it to how, because humans are effectively prey, they're like cattle, demons don't feel the need or the purpose in empathizing. I don't think that's quite a fair comparison, though, because I think there's a lot of humans that do empathize with things that are basically cattle. There's a lot of us that empathize with like sheep and with cows and stuff because they're living things just like us. But that's because we are a very moralistic society. We feel very pulled along by our sentiment, by our ethics, whereas demons simply aren't. So for them, they truly don't feel the need. Because, to be fair, there mostly isn't a need. And it's in here that we see the shortcomings of that. The pitfalls of lacking empathy. Because if you don't have empathy and you don't put yourself in their place, then you can't think of things that they might do that you wouldn't consider doing. It's their lack of empathy that prevents them from realizing, oh, it's an affront. Hiding your magic is an affront to mana, is an affront to magecraft. So I would never do it. But if I can empathize with you, my enemy, my prey, I can empathize. I can understand that that there may be people who don't see this affront to mana, and they may do it anyways. But their lack of empathy is a blind spot. So yeah, there's the value of empathy. No matter where you go, no matter what angle you approach it from, there is value in it. There is always value in empathy. And then 50 years later, we go back to something we haven't really touched much upon since like episode 3 or so, which is the love of magic. The spell that made Flamme fall in love with magic. A field of beautiful flowers. My parents taught it to me when I was little. It's the beauty, right? It's the same thing we saw with Fern, with entertaining Hyder and releasing those magic butterflies. It's the inherent beauty in something like that. And it's yet another contrast to demons. To those who don't see the beauty in it, who just see the utility, right? And it's sad. It's sad, but it's also just how they live. So it's not something to be pitied. I don't sympathize with them for not loving magic, but it's just how they are. And then She has roughly a fifth of my mana, a human maid, a human priest. And she plays along. Who's this irritating guy? How dare you? But I am mediocre. But Hyder calls her bluff because it's just a feeling. Using those same words against her, and then we cut by a bunch of flashes of their time, right? Of their journey. Here we go. Facing a dragon. Facing against Qual. Oh god, the grainy effect never fails to get me. Is that like a portal? What in the world? Oh wow. Hyder, the first time he beat Aura, or when they fought against Aura. Wow, he like cleaved through her. Jeez. And the scale went flying. So I wonder if demons like reincarnate, if they're brought back, or if she was managed to escape. I'm not sure. And then I'm not sure what this is either. It seems like a sandstorm or something. Ah, as they're standing at the Demon King's castle. Okay. Interesting. And then we measure the scales. Again, the art style is so cool. It's so cool. Frieren has like these like this like tricore, this almost like triforce of, not triforce per se, but it's almost like a Venn diagram. It's just these like little pastel colors, whereas Aura has this like grainy, like void drawing of of soul. Your age is unknown. You appeared back then, but you seem about the same as before. You've done nothing with your life. And now I'm going to cut your head off before you can do anything. She's got nothing. But they're starting to tip. And it's her pride that dealt her in. Because if she'd just sent her army out, even Frieren probably wouldn't have stood a chance. And she might have. I don't want to write her off, but she would have had much more of a chance than this. And I love the slow, steady, like, break of Aura's confidence. Like, here she's still trying to hold it up, but you can tell she's like convincing herself, right? She's talking herself back into being confident. I mean, it's too late. She already put them on the scales, but she's trying to not let the crack show. There was no hint of the instability or variation in mana output that comes with suppression. That is incredible. Little like eye changes for Frieren. God, the facial expressions in this show are so good. And she keeps explaining. You can see a little bit of worry, the little sweat drop, as like Frieren's story makes more and more sense. Like, there's no way you're actually doing it your whole life. That doesn't make sense. I can't empathize with you. That doesn't make sense. It lets me beat you. And she's like clearly bad, and her voice is like shaky. Her grin is like falling apart. She's sweating all over. And then complete composure break and just a massive field of mana. Jeez. And her eyes dilate as she falls under her control, drops the scale, and is forced to end herself. Wow. What a beautiful episode. What an absolutely wonderful, fantastic episode. Just from beginning to end. It's so good. It's so good. It played off exactly as I expected it to, and it's no worse for it. I will repeat this as many times as I need to, because I can never read it enough, because it's so frustrating to me when I see people criticize a show because, oh, it's predictable, or, oh, I saw this coming, or, oh, it doesn't subvert expectations enough. A story's worth is not measured by how much it surprises you, by how much it throws you for a loop. A story's worth is measured in what it has to say and how well it does it. Its ideas and its execution. And more than anything is the execution, because the ideas can be all recycled, because they are. There's really no such thing as an original idea anymore, not all these millennia into creating stories. So it really is about the execution and about the presentation. So it's not really a criticism when you say, oh, I predicted, oh, it's predictable, oh, it's easy to see. When people say something's predictable, what they usually tend to mean is that a story is falling short on its execution, or it's just not being interesting enough, which is also largely execution. Frieren really stands as a testament to this. I saw this coming from the start of the episode. I'm not good at predicting things. I am incredibly dense, and I love being thrown off guard. That's why you won't see me like predicting or like trying to put together a mystery as I'm watching it. I'm very much like to be pulled along with it. A, because I'm not very good at it, and B, because it's more fun to me just to be thrown around at the author's whimsy. And yet even I was able to predict it because it's not trying to be subverting, right? It's still letting things play out, like showing Aura seems to have the upper hand, and it's really like dragging it out, but it's not doing so necessarily to surprise you, because a lot of people see it coming, and it's not trying to hide that. It's instead playing it out for the sake of a good story, right? To be interesting. And it also tells about the characters, like how Frieren is not worried at all, how she doesn't necessarily just release it immediately. She's being cautious in her own way. There's a lot to be said about these little nuances. It's not just about subversion, it's about the execution. And the show is brilliant with its execution. It has been, and it continues to be. And it continues to surpass its own barrier, its own limits, and my own expectations of it. I keep raising them, and they keep getting shattered. So I'll just have to raise them some more, and we'll see what happens next. I'm sure I haven't seen anything yet. So I'm so incredibly, incredibly excited for what comes next. If you are excited as well, please do subscribe and get notified as soon as the next one comes out. I release them 3 times a week, approximately every other day. And yeah, subscribe and get notified. If you really did enjoy the video, please do like it. It helps me out a whole lot. It shows me that you enjoyed it, and it also shows the algorithm that people are enjoying what they watch, that they're engaging with it. So it'll show it to more people, and we can grow this community. And maybe we can bring more of the Frieren community into here, because I can tell there's a lot of overlap between this community and the community I'm building, because we like thinking about things and we like enjoying things for the value that they have, not just as escapism. And if there is something that you want to say, whether you're a part of my or the Frieren community or both, please do leave it in the comments. If it's about the episode, something I missed, something I didn't talk about much, a misunderstanding I have, because I have those all the time, or if there's something I said that you agree or disagree with, something you want to build off of, or just context around the episode, then please do leave it in the comments. I love reading every single one of them. And if it's really interesting, and I have a good response for it, I'll leave it in there. If it's super interesting and I want to talk about it more in a video, then I'll do that, as you saw. But with all that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you spending the time here and hearing what I have to say, and hopefully sharing your thoughts as well. But until the next one, wherever I see you next, have a lovely rest of your day.